In the great wars of the world, the battles are remembered, but the nights are forgotten. Nights where rain falls endlessly, where the earth becomes mud and fear, where the only warmth comes from a cigarette shared in silence. Tonight, we return to one of those nights, not to speak of heroism or victory, but to listen to the quiet breaths of soldiers waiting in the darkness before dawn breaks, before orders arrive, before history decides their fate. There is a night in the trenches, and this is its story. Welcome to Quiet War History, a calm place where the battles become whispers and the past drifts gently through the night. Tonight, we walk softly through the trenches of World War I, not to hear the guns, but to understand the men who endured the darkness between them. Settle in. Let the night begin. Imagine standing in a trench soaked with rain, the walls collapsing into mud, your boots filled with cold water, your breath turning white in the winter air. You hear nothing at first, just the slow dripping of water from wooden beams and the faint rustle of rats moving in the dark. But beneath that silence lies a tension older than the war itself. The knowledge that dawn could bring anything, a bombardment, an attack, or simply another day of waiting. Every soldier in the trench feels it, and tonight you will walk beside them. The trench does not appear all at once. It doesn't rise out of the earth like a sudden wound. It reveals itself slowly, piece by piece, as the light fades. At first, all you see are shapes, shadows that might be men, lines that might be walls, a dark, broken line across the landscape that could be a ditch or a scar or both. Then, as your eyes adjust to the dying light, the details begin to emerge. Wooden planks nailed in hurried patterns, mud caked thick on every surface, sandbags stacked like tired shoulders, leaning against each other to stay upright. The air is damp, not the clean damp of a forest after rain, but the heavy, clinging moisture of earth that has been turned and turned and turned again by shells, shovels, boots, and blood. It smells of wet soil, old sweat, and something metallic that never quite leaves the nose. The sun is almost gone. A faint, dull orange glow clings to the horizon, like embers refusing to die out. Above it, the sky slides slowly into deep blue, and then into something darker. The day has not ended yet, but it is no longer truly day. The soldiers in the trench feel this more acutely than anyone watching from a distance ever could. Day is for orders, for movement, for repairs, for patrols, for the endless, grinding routine of war. Night is something different. Night is for waiting, You step down into the trench, one boot at a time, feeling the ground shift slightly beneath you. The mud here behaves like a living thing. It grips your foot as you descend, tries to pull the boot from your heel, as if it resents you disturbing it. The boards laid across the bottom of the trench, the duck boards, are slick with moisture. Your sole slides half a centimeter before catching. It's enough to remind you to place every step carefully. Around you, men move with a tired familiarity that tells you they've done this dozens, hundreds of times. They duck under low beams without needing to look up. They sidestep puddles without glancing down. Their bodies remember the layout even when their minds are elsewhere. Voices murmur in low tones. No one shouts. Sound travels strangely at the front. A raised voice is like a thrown stone in still water. It ripples outward, touching places it was never meant to reach. So the men speak softly, a quiet joke, a request for a match, a question about whose turn it is on sentry duty. Their words are swallowed quickly by the damp walls and the thickening dark. A few lanterns glow weakly along the trench, their light carefully shielded, directed downward. They reveal slices of reality and hide everything else. You see a jawline dusted with stubble, clenched in thought. You see fingers fumbling with a cigarette, struggling to light it with matches that refuse to stay dry. The rest of the man remains invisible, blurred into the shadows. The artillery has gone quiet for now. The distant thunder that ruled the afternoon has faded into the occasional, isolated boom, far enough away that the ground no longer shivers with each impact. 4 soldiers in the trench. This quiet is double-edged. On one hand, it's a relief, a chance for their ears to rest after hours of ringing noise, and the deep vibrations that rattle the ribs. On the other, silence is unnerving, because silence raises questions. Are they regrouping? Are they planning something? Are we the only ones awake out here? You move along the narrow path, your shoulder brushing against cold, damp earth on one side and rough, splintered wood on the other. Every few meters, the trench bends slightly. Never in a straight line. Straight lines are dangerous. A shell that lands just right will turn a straight trench into a long, open grave. So the trench zigzags, left, right, left again, like a hesitant thought. At one bend, a soldier stands on a small wooden crate, peering over the parapet. His silhouette is still, except for the slight rise and fall of his chest. You hear the soft creak of leather as he shifts his weight. He's keeping watch over the land between the trenches, the no man's land. You step closer, just enough to see what he sees when you tilt your head slightly upward. What lies beyond the lip of a trench is not truly land, not anymore. It is a broken field, scarred by craters where shells have kissed the earth with violent force. It is a jungle of barbed wire, twisted and tangled, glinting faintly in the last remnants of light, like the web of a particularly cruel spider. In the distance, the faint suggestion of another line, their trench, their soldiers, their night. You cannot see them, but every man here knows that they are there, watching, waiting, wondering the same things. The sentry's eyes move slowly, sweeping from left to right, then back again. You can almost feel the rhythm of his gaze. He is not thinking of the politics of this war. He is not imagining maps, strategy, lines drawn across paper. He is focused on movement. A flicker, a shadow, a shape that doesn't belong. Behind you, someone coughs quietly. The sound is short, stifled. There is a constant trade in the trench, comfort for safety. You'd like to cough fully, clear your throat, push the dampness out of your chest, but every extra sound feels like it might draw attention. So you cough into your sleeve, swallow the rest, and the itch stays with you. Further down, you hear the faint scrape of a shovel. Someone is still working, even at this hour. The trench is never finished. The walls cave in after rain. The floor floods. The boards rot. Every day, men move earth to keep their shelter from collapsing in on them. You pass a dugout entrance, a dark opening carved into the wall, framed with timber beams. From inside, a soft glow spills out, just enough to outline the edges. There's muttering within, a murmur of low voices and paper maps, the quiet clink of a metal cup. That's where the officers are. Their world is not much more comfortable. The same damp air, the same cramped spaces, but it is slightly more organized. They speak of rotations, of rations, of reports from other sectors. They choose who will be standing on this fragile line at 2 in the morning. They decide which units will be sent on patrol into the black teeth of no man's land. You keep moving. The trench turns again, narrowing slightly as you reach a section that has seen more damage. Here, the sandbags bulge unevenly, some broken open, their contents spilling out like entrails of white-gray earth. The boards under your boots are cracked in places. You step over one gap automatically, the reflex of someone who has nearly fallen through once before. The men here sit close to the wall, knees drawn up, arms resting on them. Some stare at nothing in particular, eyes unfocused, lost in thoughts that have traveled far beyond this muddy corridor. Others busy their hands, cleaning a rifle, rolling a cigarette, writing a letter with cramped, tired handwriting. The letters are a kind of lifeline. In them, men shrink the war down to something their families can understand. They do not describe the smell of rotting sandbags or the way the rats move at night with a confidence soldiers have lost. They mention the weather, the food, their health. They say, "Don't worry." Sometimes they say, "I'll be home soon," even when they aren't sure what soon means anymore. A soldier beside you pulls a small photo from his pocket. The edges are worn, the corners rounded from being handled too often. In the fading light, you see the outline of a woman and a child. He doesn't stare at the picture long. Just a glance, a brief connection to something that doesn't smell like mud and powder. Then the photo goes back into the safe place near his heart, and he resumes his quiet vigil. Overhead, the sky has darkened fully now. The last traces of color have drained away, leaving a deep, almost velvety black. A few stars pierce through, dim and distant. They look fragile, almost shy, as if they're not entirely sure they should be watching this war. The darkness changes the trench. It blurs the edges, softens the shapes. What was sharp and ugly by day becomes a series of suggestions, implied rather than seen. You hear more than you see now. The squelch of boots, the soft splash of water as someone missteps into a deeper puddle, a suppressed curse, the quiet scrape of a knife cutting a piece of hard bread. In the distance, somewhere out beyond the tangle of wire, a flare hisses upward. For a few seconds, the world is transformed. White light floods the landscape, dropping harsh shadows into every crater, turning the barbed wire into a forest of glistening knives. Faces in the trench tilt upward reflexively, eyes narrow. In that stark glow, you feel terribly exposed, as if the flare is not just illuminating the ground, but reaching into your thoughts. You hold still. Everyone holds still. Movement invites attention. Attention invites fire. The flare hangs in the sky, suspended on its slow arc, then falls, spitting and sizzling until it finally dies in a puff of smoke. Darkness snaps back into place, thicker than before. For a moment, it feels like the trench itself exhales. Someone mutters, "Just checking, we're still here." There's a faint ripple of hollow amusement. Then the quiet returns. The night has now fully arrived. The outlines of the day, the tasks, the routines, the distractions have faded away. What remains is a line in the earth filled with tired men and a long, uncertain darkness ahead of them. You can feel the trench settle into its nighttime rhythm. Sentries rotate to their posts. Patrols are prepared in low whispers. Some men try to sleep, heads pressed against their arms, eyes shut tightly against the thought that the next sound they hear might be the scream of a shell or the whistle of an incoming attack. Others simply sit, backs against the cold wall, letting their minds drift. In that space between waking and dreams, where past and present become blurry. Underfoot, the boards creak quietly. The mud shifts. A rat darts past your boot, bold and unafraid. Its coat slick with the same dampness that clings to your skin. You are not alone down here, not truly. The trench is crowded with breathing bodies, with whispered fears, with unspoken hopes. And yet, in the darkness, every man feels a small island of solitude around his own thoughts. The day is over. The night has begun. And in this narrow, muddy corridor between worlds, between home and front, between life and death, between memory and forgetting, the soldiers of the trenches prepare themselves for the long hours to come. The night does not roar. It does not announce itself with fanfare or thunder. It simply settles, quiet and heavy, on men who have no choice but to endure it. And this is where their true war begins. Night does not simply fall in the trenches. It takes over. It settles into every corner, fills every gap between sandbags, clings to the muddy walls like a second skin. And once it arrives, it begins assigning duties. Not official duties, those belong to officers. Schedules, rotations, marked on damp paper. These duties are older, instinctive, shared by every soldier who has ever sat in a trench, a fort, a camp, or any place where danger could emerge from darkness. The first duty of the night is silence. Not absolute silence. The trench is never quiet. It breathes, it shifts, it mutters. Wood creaks, rats skitter, water drips from unseen corners. But the human silence becomes thicker. Men speak less. And when they do, their voices soften automatically, as if the darkness itself is listening. You can hear things now that were invisible in the day. The faint rustle of a coat as someone adjusts their position. The soft clink of a metal button against a canteen. A sigh from a man trying to ease the knot in his shoulder after carrying gear for hours. And beneath all of it, the distant hum of artillery, not close enough to shake the earth, just far enough to remind you that somewhere out there, someone else is not resting tonight. The second duty of the night, watching night, changes the way men see. In daylight, you scan the horizon with purpose, checking distances, counting shapes, measuring threats. At night, your eyes are liars. Shadows stretch, shrink, merge, shift. What looks like movement might be the wind brushing through torn wire. And yet, every soldier looks. You take your place near the parapet, standing on a wooden crate, polished smooth by the boots of countless men before you. Your hands grip the edge of the sandbag wall. The dirt beneath your fingers is cold and slightly damp. You lift your head just enough to peer over. No man does this casually. Every rise of the head is a small act of trust. Trust that the darkness is heavy enough to hide you. Head, no man's land stretches out like a sea of broken earth. By daylight, it is terrifying in its clarity. By night, it is terrifying in its mystery. The craters filled with rainwater reflect faint stars and nothing else. Barbed wire glints faintly in patches, like thin blades of ice scattered on the ground. Somewhere in the distance, a flare is fired, but not here. You see the distant sky brighten for a heartbeat, then return to darkness. You imagine the men on the other side doing exactly what you're doing now. Watching, waiting, straining their ears for the smallest sound that doesn't belong to the night. Night is long in the trenches, longer than logic allows. Minutes stretch, hours blur. Time becomes a slow drip that seems to fall thicker in the cold. A soldier 2 meters to your left stamps his feet lightly, trying to get blood moving through boots that have grown numb. He breathes into his hands, rubbing them together for warmth that disappears quickly into the open air. Another sits on a crate, coat wrapped tightly around him, chin tucked into his collar like a bird folding into itself. His eyes are half closed, but he is not asleep. No one sleeps deeply in a trench. Sleep here is a negotiation. Small pieces traded in 10-minute fragments. A moment of rest, followed by a twitch of fear. A dream cut short by the scrape of a shovel or the thud of boots from the next section. Pain becomes background noise. The ache in your back from leaning against the earth wall. The sting in your fingers each time you adjust your weapon. The constant pressure on your ankles from standing too long in a trench that was never meant to be comfortable or even livable. And yet, despite the cold, despite the fear, despite the exhaustion, men remain. Not through heroism, not through training alone, but through the strange, stubborn endurance shared by those who have no choice but to keep going. Every soldier has one, a way to stay steady. Some count slowly in their heads to keep time from unraveling. Some whisper short prayers, not long, elaborate ones. Just a sentence or two to whatever God might be listening in a place like this. Others touch a charm, a coin, a wrong button sewn into the lining of a coat, a small wooden cross, a folded piece of paper containing a name. These rituals are small, but powerful. They tether the mind to something outside the trench, something human, something warm. Further down the line, you hear 2 soldiers murmuring, Their words are too soft to make out, but the tone is unmistakable. One is telling a story, maybe about home, maybe about a girl, maybe about something ridiculous that happened in training camp years ago. The other soldier laughs quietly, not because the story is funny, but because laughter feels like a small rebellion against the weight of the night. And in the trench, rebellions like that matter more than anyone will ever admit. The enemy is out there. You know it. Everyone knows it. But the night is not always full of attacks. Most nights, nothing happens. And that is the hardest part. The waiting. The listening for footsteps that never come. The tension that builds in your shoulders until you forget what they felt like before the war. You lean your back against the wall, letting the cold seep through your coat. Like the night itself has been watching wars for longer than humans have been fighting them. You exhale slowly, letting the breath drift out like a small offering. Somewhere above, a star slips behind a cloud. Somewhere far away, another battery of artillery begins firing again. But here, in this narrow strip of earth, you hear only your own heartbeat and the quiet shuffling of men who are trying not to think too loudly. Night has taken full control. And the long hours between now and the first hint of dawn stretch before you like another battlefield. One fought not with rifles or shells, but with patience, stillness, and the fragile endurance of tired souls trying to make it to morning. Sometimes it starts with hesitation, a soft tap on a wooden plank overhead, then another, a few seconds of silence, and then a gentle fall that becomes a steady curtain descending over everything. Rain in the trenches is more than weather. It is a force. Within minutes, the shallow puddles deepen, the mud softens, the boards begin to shine with a slick coat of water. You feel it soaking through your coat, your gloves, your collar. It drips from the brim of your helmet in slow, rhythmic taps. No one looks up. There is no point. The rain will do what the rain has always done. A soldier beside you mutters, almost to himself. At least the sound keeps you company, and it's true. The rain creates a kind of rhythm, a soft percussion that fills the long spaces between footsteps and quiet breaths. Some soldiers find it soothing, others find it unbearable, but no one can ignore it. They move with confidence, as if they own the trench. You hear them long before you see them, a tiny scatter of claws over wooden boards. The soft rustle as they squeeze through sandbags, a faint squeak that disappears as quickly as it arrives. Rats are not afraid of soldiers. They live closer to them than most families do. Some men curse them. Some men ignore them. Some joke about adopting them as pets. But every man knows the rat will still be here long after the war is over. They are part of the trenches' night choir. Somewhere behind you, someone adjusts a strap, a buckle, a weapon leaning against the wall. The sound is small, a soft scrape, a gentle click, but in the stillness of the night, it feels louder than it should. Every soldier knows the rule. Metal sounds carry, voices carry, light carries. So every movement is careful, measured, quiet. Even the smallest action is softened, as if wrapped in cloth. Occasionally, you hear boots approaching, not marching. There is no marching at night. Just slow, careful steps. A sucking sound as mud releases a boot with reluctance. The hollow thud on a wooden plank. The slight splash when someone misjudges a deep puddle. These footsteps mean many things. A sentry rotating out, a message being delivered, a man returning from a dugout where he tried and failed to rest. Sometimes footsteps in the night mean something else entirely. But most soldiers prefer not to think about that. Not close, not threatening, just far-off artillery, echoes of battles happening miles away. The shells burst like faint lightning beneath the horizon, too distant to illuminate anything, too soft to rattle the ribs. It is strange how men in the trenches find comfort in the sound of distant danger. Close danger is terror. They're busy somewhere else tonight. This is the quietest sound of all. A few men huddled close, speaking in low tones that blend with the rain and the wind. You don't hear the words, just the murmur. Sometimes a soft chuckle. Sometimes the silence between sentences is longer than the sentences themselves. These conversations are not about the war. Not tonight. They are about home, food, warm beds, a memory from before the trenches existed. A place where the air didn't smell like mud and fear. Men talk to stay human. They whisper to stay safe in the darkest hours. This is the sound that binds the soldiers together. The slow, tired breath of the man beside you. The exhale of someone settling into a corner of the trench. You realize something, standing there in the dark. This sound, the breathing of tired men who refuse to collapse, is what holds the night together. Not the wind, not the rain, not the distant guns. It is the presence of other human beings enduring the same silence, the same cold, the same waiting. And in a place like this, that is the closest thing to comfort. Fear in the trenches is not always loud. It is not always the sudden panic of a shell landing nearby, or the frantic scramble when an alarm is shouted in the dark. Those moments exist, yes, sharp and violent, like lightning tearing the sky. But most of the time, fear is much quieter. In the heartbeat between one distant gunshot and the next. In the pause, between a creak of wood and the realization that it was just the wind. In the silence, after you think you heard something move out in no man's land, you learn very quickly that fear will walk beside you whether you invite it or not. By day, you can drown it in tasks, repairing the trench wall, cleaning your rifle, lining up for rations, writing a letter home. There is always something to do when the sun is up. But at night, the tasks thin out. The distractions fall away. And what remains is you, a tired body, a restless mind, and a darkness that offers too much room for imagination. You are not terrified every second. No one could live like that. The fear here is more subtle, more patient. It waits in the background like a shadow just at the edge of vision. You forget it for a while, and then a small sound, a distant thud, the crack of a twig brings it back into focus. Your stomach tightens, your breath catches, just for a moment. Then everything looks normal again, or as normal as war ever looks. But the fear remains, not leaving, not attacking, just staying. The most dangerous weapon in the trench is not the rifle, not the bayonet, not the shell. It is the two words, what if? What if they attack tonight? What if the warning doesn't reach my section in time? What if the shell that never lands here finally does? What if the next flare shows someone moving where no one should be? These questions don't arrive in one big wave. They slip in sideways. When you are tired, when your guard is down, when you are staring at nothing in particular. A soldier might be looking at the end of his boot, watching a drop of rain roll off the tip, and suddenly his mind is miles away, running down a path of possibilities he has no power to control. He shifts, adjusts his grip, takes a deeper breath, as if that alone could push the thoughts away. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. The night divides the trench into two kinds of men, those who are watching and those who are trying to rest. The watchers stand close to the parapet, eyes scanning the darkness, minds tuned to every noise. They feel responsible for themselves, for the men behind them, for the thin strip of earth they have been assigned to guard. They cannot afford to relax. They listen to the wind, the rain, the occasional crack of wood, the drip of water. Each sound must be examined, sorted, filed away as harmless or dangerous. Most sounds go into the first category, but the brain never stops asking, are you sure? Behind them, the resters lie or sit against the cold wall. Some have their eyes closed. Some stare upward, watching the thin strip of sky visible above the trench. They are not asleep. Not really. They drift in and out, caught between exhaustion and the knowledge that they might be shaken awake at any moment. For them, fear is different. It does not flash in front of their eyes. It crawls quietly under their thoughts, seeping into dreams, turning every half-sleep into a restless flicker of images falling earth. Sudden light, the shout of a name, the feeling of running through mud and not getting anywhere. They rub their faces, shift in place, try to find a position that doesn't hurt. The ground doesn't care. Sometimes, what unsettles the men most is not the presence of sound, but its absence. There are moments in the night when the wind stops, the rain softens, the artillery pauses, the rat goes still. The trench holds its breath, and in that fragile silence, every soldier feels it. The sense that the world itself is listening, that something might be about to happen, that the next sound could mean everything. A boot scraping, a rifle bolt, a whistle, a distant shout. Most of the time, nothing comes. The silence stretches a little longer. Then some small, ordinary noise returns. A cough, a drop of water, the squeak of a rat, and the spell breaks. But for those few seconds, every man feels the same cold question settle into his bones. Is this the moment? Human beings, even in war, are remarkably good at pretending things are normal, even here. In a narrow, wet trench, with the enemy only hundreds of meters away, with shells that could fall at any time, with orders that could send someone over the top at dawn. Even here, the mind tries to build small islands of normal life. A soldier carefully folds a piece of bread in half, as if preparing a meal at home. Another adjusts his coat and mutters about the cold, like a man complaining about the weather on his way to work. Someone checks a watch, although time has lost its meaning. Someone else traces patterns on the wooden stock of his rifle, like a bored student doodling on a desk. These rituals do not remove the fear. They do something more subtle. They shrink it. They reduce the war for a few moments to something the mind can hold without breaking. Every man is afraid. Not always at the same time, not always in the same way, but fear is universal here. The strange thing is that this shared fear does not always weaken them. Sometimes it binds them. A glance exchanged in the dark between two sentries. A short nod from a veteran passing by, acknowledging without words that he, too, has felt the same tightness in the chest, the same cold hands, the same restless thoughts. No one boasts here about not being scared. The trench has a way of stripping away such performances. Courage in this place is not the absence of fear. It is the quiet decision to keep standing, keep watching. But it changes shape. It becomes a dull ache. Instead of a sharp stab, it sits in the background, less like a shout and more like a whisper. Your body grows numb in all the familiar places: feet, fingers, the small of your back, the base of your neck. Your mind grows tired of its own questions. At some point, you stop imagining every possible disaster. You simply exist. One breath, one heartbeat, 1 minute, then another. And that, in its own quiet way, is victory. Not the kind of victory that appears in history books, not the kind that earns medals or speeches, but the kind of victory that gets a soldier from one night to the next morning, from fear to endurance, to something like acceptance. The night is not over. The danger is not gone. But you are still here. And in the trenches, survival, minute by minute, hour by hour, is its own form of silent heroism. When the night grows colder and the silence grows heavier, men turn inward. Not physically, there is no room for that in the trench, but somewhere quieter, somewhere deeper than the mud beneath their boots or the wooden planks beneath their weight. This is the hour of letters. Every soldier carries them, folded carefully, tucked in pockets, pressed close to the heart, softened at the edges by mud, rain, sweat, and hope. You can learn a surprising amount about a man by the way he handles a letter. Some unfold them slowly, like they're touching something sacred. Others keep them tightly rolled, opening only enough to read a line or two before closing them again, as if the words might escape. And then there are the ones who never take their letters out at all. Not because they don't want to, but because the memories hurt just a little too much to hold in their hands tonight. You watch one soldier, a young man with tired eyes, pull a letter from his breast pocket. The paper is creased and worn, a faint scent of lavender still clinging to it despite weeks in the trench. He reads slowly, not because he doesn't know the words, but because he wants to savor them, stretch them, make them last. You see his lips move slightly, forming a name, a phrase, a promise. He is not here, not entirely. Part of him has slipped into the memory of wherever that letter came from. A kitchen warmed by sunlight. A quiet street outside his childhood home. A room where laughter lives and the air doesn't taste of smoke and soil. He reads the same paragraph 3 times. For meaning, for comfort. Sometimes a soldier will whisper a line aloud, barely audible above the wind. We miss you. Come home safe. The children ask about you every night. Words soft as breath, but heavy enough to keep a man standing. Not everyone has letters, but many have photographs. Small squares of paper that hold entire universes. A mother in a garden. a wife by a window, a child sitting on a doorstep. Friends gathered around a table in a moment no one thought would one day feel like a dream. The photos are not crisp. They are faded, creased, sometimes cracked. But to the soldiers, they are clearer than anything the trench shows them. When a man stares at a photograph, the trench seems to pull away from him just a little. The mud fades, the fear quiets. The cold loosens its grip. For a few moments, he is not a soldier in a narrow ditch on a foreign field. He is simply a man remembering who he was before war decided who he had to become. Even in darkness, men seek light. Not much, just enough. A match flaring to life as someone lights a cigarette. The tiny glow at the tip, a trembling point of orange in the damp air. A candle stub burning inside a dugout, its flame flickering against the wooden beams. A lantern covered carefully with rags to keep the light from spilling out into no man's land. These lights are fragile, never lasting long, but they do something remarkable. They remind the men that the world still contains warmth, even here in the coldest corners of a bitter war. A soldier cups his hands around a cigarette, shielding the ember from the wind. He inhales deeply, exhales slowly, a long thread of smoke curling upward before disappearing into the night. For a moment, his face glows softly, lines of exhaustion softened by amber light. He does not smile, but his shoulders loosen just a little. Sometimes light doesn't have to be bright to bring comfort. Sometimes it just has to exist. Not all memories are warm. Some return uninvited, footsteps echoing in the wrong direction. A face glimpsed in the moment before chaos. A friend who should be standing here but is not. These memories drift through the trench like ghosts with no shape. Not haunting, just present. A soldier may be sitting quietly one moment and staring into the darkness the next, eyes clouded with thoughts no one dares to interrupt. Yet, even these memories, the heavy ones, serve a purpose. They remind the men why they endure, why they stand, why they march and watch and wait, because someone, somewhere, is carrying their memory to dot in the background. The trench begins to develop a kind of rhythm. A man shifting in his coat, a page turning, a whispered word, the scratch of a pencil as someone writes, "I'm all right. Don't worry about me." A quiet laugh, a sigh, the brief spark of a match. This is the soundtrack of a trench at night. A fragile music made from small human moments. Moments that would seem ordinary anywhere else, but here are small acts of defiance. against the cold, the fear, and the darkness. If you ever ask a soldier what kept him going, he may tell you it was training or duty or loyalty. But if he is honest, he might say this instead: the little things, the memories, the letters, the lights. Because in the trenches, a man can endure almost anything as long as he has even a thread connecting him to the person he was before the war. Even if it's just a scrap of paper, a blurred photograph, a flicker of flame, a song half remembered, a name whispered into the dark. These small pieces of life are what keep the night bearable. They are the fire that no amount of mud can fully extinguish. The trench is a different world after midnight. The darkness feels heavier, as if it has settled into the wood, the earth, even the men themselves. Voices grow quieter. Movements slow down. Not with fear alone, but with exhaustion. This is the hour when bodies begin to betray their owners. A soldier sits with his back to the wall, head tilted downward, eyes half closed. He tries to stay awake. He must. But sleep creeps in sideways. Not in full dreams, but in sudden, sharp dips into nothingness. A slow blink, a longer blink, a moment of forgetting where he is. His chin drops, his body loosens. A noise, a shift in the wind, a pebble falling somewhere nearby. His eyes snap open and he inhales deeply, forcing the trench back into focus. Still here, still night. Across from him, another soldier rubs his face with both hands, trying to push the weight of fatigue back up into the sky. It doesn't work. It never works. But they keep trying, because falling asleep in the trench is not like falling asleep anywhere else. There is no pillow, no blanket, no warmth, just mud, cold wood, and the knowledge that danger could appear in the time it takes to close your eyes. Minutes stretch, hours move like molasses. A man checks his watch and is convinced the hands have stopped. 10 minutes feels like an hour. An hour feels like a lifetime. The trench is quiet, but not silent. You hear the soft, rhythmic drip of water falling from a beam overhead. The distant pop of flares far down the line. The groan of tired wood as someone shifts their weight. The faint, muffled cough of a man trying not to disturb the others. These sounds form a pattern, a slow pulse that replaces the ticking of clocks. Time is no longer measured by numbers, but by sensations. The growing numbness in fingers, the slow ache in lower backs, the tightening of boots as water seeps in and cold takes hold. Sometime after midnight, the fog arrives. It comes quietly, rising from the ground, like a ghost freed from the soil. It fills the trench from the bottom up. A soft, pale mist that clings to boots and then ankles and then knees. It blurs the edges of everything. The walls, the rifles stacked against them, the forms of tired men huddle in their coats. Even the lamps, small, shielded, carefully hidden, glow like suns trapped inside clouds. Fog adds a new layer to the night's uncertainty. Not danger, not directly, but possibility. Shapes become vague. Movements become illusions. A shifting shadow might be a rat, or a trick of the mist, or something else entirely. But the soldiers do not panic. Not in this hour. They have learned that the mind creates threats faster than the enemy does. So they breathe slowly, softly, letting the fog settle like a blanket laid gently across the broken land. Hours after most guns have gone silent, you still hear the occasional echo, a boom so distant it seems like thunder, a rumble beneath the horizon that fades as soon as you notice it. No one flinches anymore. The body learns, slowly, painfully, which sounds mean danger and which sounds mean nothing at all. The distant guns are almost comforting in their predictability, like the ticking of a clock. In a quiet house, every so often, the sentries rotate. A quiet system designed to keep the line alert while giving each man a brief moment to rest. A soldier approaches, boots squelching softly, coat pulled tight. He touches the arm of the man on duty. No words, none needed. One steps down, one steps up. The ritual is smooth, automatic, born from countless repetitions. The man leaving the position does not walk fast. He is too tired for that. He moves slowly, hands tucked into his pockets, shoulders slumped. But after 2-3 steps, his posture shifts slightly, like he's shrugging off a tiny piece of the night's weight. Even a few minutes away from the parapet can feel like a gift. Sometime in the deepest hours, you notice the sky shifting, not brightening, not yet, but changing. The stars move, almost imperceptibly. A faint, cold breeze slips across the trench. Somewhere above the fog, the night is preparing for the first hint of dawn. But dawn is still far away. There is no color at the edge of the sky, no warmth, just the quiet knowing that the night is slowly, patiently making room for morning. And the soldiers feel it, not in their eyes, but in their bones. That strange animal sense that the world is about to turn, but not yet, never yet. A soldier sits with his rifle resting across his lap. His head droops. He catches himself. He straightens. A minute later, it happens. again. These micro-sleeps are dangerous but unavoidable. The body demands rest. The war refuses to give it. A man may dream for a second, just long enough to see a face he misses, a street he recognizes, a room filled with sunlight. Then the trench pulls him back, cold and real, and waiting. He adjusts his coat, tightens his gloves, and whispers to himself, "Stay awake. Just a bit longer." No one hears it. But every man says something like it in the slow hours before dawn. You feel it before you see it. A slight shift in the air, a thinning of the fog, a subtle lightening of the darkness, not enough to illuminate anything, but enough to suggest that the world beyond the trench has started to stir. Dawn is not here, not even close, but it is thinking about coming. And for the men in the trench, that is enough. Because the slow hours before dawn are the hardest of the night. The hours when exhaustion and fear and memory all mix together into something heavy and quiet. The hours when men feel most fragile. The hours when time moves like a wounded animal dragging itself forward. And yet, here they are, still breathing, still awake, still waiting. The night has not won. Morning is somewhere just beyond the darkness. And that is enough. Dawn is a strange visitor in the trenches. It does not arrive all at once, bursting over the horizon with warmth and color. It creeps in, quietly, carefully, as if unsure whether it is welcome here. The first hint of dawn is not light, but a shift in sound. The wind changes tone, subtle but noticeable. The air feels less still. Somewhere far away, a bird calls, once hesitantly, as though checking if the world is safe enough to sing. A soldier near you lifts his head, blinks slowly, and murmurs, "It's coming." He doesn't mean hope. He means daylight. Because in the trenches, daylight is both gift and threat. The darkness overhead begins to thin, almost imperceptibly. It is not blue yet, and certainly not bright. It is simply less black. The stars fade, one by one, blinking out like distant lamps, being snuffed in another world. Men notice this, even if they do not raise their eyes. A man who has been half asleep sits up straighter. A sentry who has spent hours staring at the same patch of darkness adjusts his stance, anticipating what the light might reveal. The trench changes color, not truly visible yet, but shifting in tone as the night slowly releases its grip. There is a quiet that occurs only in this brief window between night and dawn. It is not the silence of sleep or of peace, but a tight, concentrated stillness shared by hundreds of men who know that this moment could crack open at any second. No one speaks. not now. Conversations die out. Hands stop moving. Breathing slows, as if the entire line is holding itself back from making even the smallest sound. This is the hour when a single noise can ruin everything. It is also the hour when every ear listens hardest. Will there be an attack, a flare, a patrol caught in the open, a shout, a whistle, or nothing at all? Nothing can be as terrifying as everything. As the light grows thin, cold, hesitant, the outlines of men begin to re-emerge. A helmet, a shoulder, a rifle leaning against a wall. The curve of a sandbag heavy with night moisture. For the first time in hours, you can see the expressions of the soldiers near you. Exhaustion, relief, anxiety, resignation. These emotions were here all night, but the darkness hid them mercifully. In the gray half-light, they return. A soldier rubs his eyes, smearing mud across his cheek without noticing. Another rolls his stiff shoulders. After hours of stillness, a veteran, older than most, with lines etched deep by cold and memory, lights a cigarette. He inhales, exhales, and murmurs quietly, "Another day." He says it without joy, without sorrow, simply acknowledging. The weight of time. Light is dangerous here. In darkness, you can hide. The trench protects you, wind and shadow working together to blur your presence. But in daylight, you are exposed not only to enemy eyes, but to reality. The ground before you, hidden all night, reveals itself again. And what it reveals is cruel. Craters filled with dirty water. Barbed wire twisted like broken ribs. Scattered wooden stakes. Half-buried debris, shards of metal glinting with frost. And sometimes, despite every effort to look elsewhere, the shapes that do not move. No man speaks of those shapes. Not now, not ever. As dawn strengthens, the officers emerge from their dugouts, not all at once, and not with ceremony. They climb out quietly, tightening belts, pulling on gloves, checking watches that are often inaccurate but still consulted as if holy. Their presence signals a shift in the trench's energy. Night routines end. Day routines begin. They speak in low tones to sentries, to messengers, to squad leaders. A few carry notes scribbled hastily on paper that has been damp for days. A runner jogs past, boots splashing softly. His face is focused, jaw clenched against the morning cold. Messages must be delivered before the sun rises fully. Orders must be aligned. Units must be accounted for. The day is taking shape. When dawn finally arrives, it does so without fanfare. The sky brightens, enough to distinguish earth from sky without straining the eyes. Shadows shrink, details sharpen. The entire battlefield returns to visibility. Men blink against the pale glow, as if waking from a long, uneasy dream. Some look toward the horizon with hope, not hope for victory, but hope that today might pass without catastrophe. Others look with dread, because daytime means movement, and movement means exposure. And exposure in the trenches is a gamble every man must play, whether he wishes to or not. Yet, strangely, the first minutes of daylight often bring a fragile peace. No shots, no shells, no flares, just the world revealing itself again. A soldier stretches back, cracking audibly. Another takes a sip of cold tea from a dented can. Someone jokes quietly that he's forgotten what warmth feels like. A few men smile, just a little. These small moments in the hour after dawn are the closest thing to normalcy the trench will see. But the danger is not gone. Dawn simply shifts it into a new shape. Now, the threat is not stealth, but precision. Artillery observers can see. Snipers can see. Signals can be read. Movements can be tracked. Every soldier knows it. And yet, life must continue. Shifts must change. Breakfast must be distributed. Equipment must be checked. New orders must be delivered. The war does not pause for morning. The sun breaks the horizon at last. A thin line of gold, then orange, then pale white light spills across the battlefield. It touches the barbed wire first, making it gleam like a necklace of cold fire. Then the mud, glittering with frost. Then the faces of the men, tired, unshaven, haunted, determined. The night has ended, but the danger has only changed form. The men straighten themselves, ready for whatever the daylight brings. Orders, repairs, work, waiting, always waiting, always waiting. The trench shifts from survival to duty, and another day in a long, brutal war begins its slow march forward. Morning in the trenches is not a sunrise. Not really. It is simply the moment when men can see again. The light is pale, almost colorless, as if the sun is reluctant to look directly at the battlefield. The trench, revealed by dawn, appears older, more worn, as though the night has added another year of age to it. Men move slowly, not because they want to, but because the night has stiffened every joint and soaked every layer of cloth. Still, morning brings rituals. Small ones, necessary ones. Rituals that keep a soldier human. Someone produces rations, cold tea, hard bread, tinned meat, a few biscuits, soft from damp. The soldiers gather in small clusters, not sitting, Exactly, there is nowhere dry to sit, but leaning, huddling, sharing what little warmth their bodies can provide. One soldier breaks his biscuit in half and hands the larger piece to the man beside him. The gesture is quiet, instinctive, almost invisible. But in the trenches, sharing food is one of the purest acts of kindness. They eat slowly, without ceremony. No one comments on the taste. There is nothing to say. Food is fuel. Fuel is survival. And survival is its own form of grace. After eating, the familiar rattling begins. Rifles being checked, bolts pulled back, magazines tapped, mud scraped from metal. A soldier wipes his rifle with a cloth that has been soaked, dried, and reused so many times its original color is a myth. Another pulls mud from the grooves of his boots with a small knife. They do not talk much during this task. There is something sacred about maintaining the tools. That may save your life before the day ends. In this quiet labor, every motion is deliberate. Rifle, pull, check, wipe, breathe. The rhythm is steady and strangely calming. War strips away luxuries, freedoms, comforts, but it leaves men their routines. And sometimes routines are enough. As the cold loosens its grip, men begin to talk. Not loud, never loud, just soft threads of speech woven between tasks. A simple question, sleep, a shrug in response, a tired smile, a small shake of the head. Another man mentions a dream, nothing profound, just a flicker of memory from a world far from mud and wire. Someone jokes that the rat slept better than they did. The others smile, not because the joke is good, but because smiling feels like an act of resistance. In the trenches, humor is not about laughter. It is about staying upright. With daylight comes responsibility. The trench must be checked, always. Men inspect sandbags, restack those sagging with rain, replace those torn by shrapnel, and reinforce sections softened by the night's stamp. They hammer boards into place, driving nails with slow, measured strikes to avoid drawing unnecessary attention. Someone clears debris from a collapsed corner, a task done so many times that no one thinks to complain. Maintenance is life here. A weak spot in the trench is not an inconvenience. It is a threat. So they work, quietly, efficiently, shoulder to shoulder. Not because they were ordered to, but because they understand that the trench protects them only as well as they protect it. As the morning strengthens, officers begin their rounds. Not stern, not shouting, just present. A hand on a shoulder, a nod of approval, a few murmured instructions. The officers look tired too, eyes shadowed, faces unshaven, boots caked with the same mud as their men. One studies a map, its edges softened from being folded 100 times. Another scribbles notes with a pencil barely holding together. Orders are not dramatic here. They are practical. Rotate the sentries. Check the drainage. Prepare for inspection. Wait for word from the left. The officers simply keep up. Every morning, there are a few moments, small, fragile, when everything pauses. No gunfire, no orders, no footsteps. Just men, breathing the cold air, feeling the weak warmth of a sun that does not yet shine, but is trying. A soldier closes his eyes, just for a second, letting the faint rays touch his face. Another leans against the wall, exhaling deeply, as though the night has finally loosened its grip. These moments do not last. They never do. But they exist. And in the trenches, even a moment can feel like a blessing as the morning settles in. The men begin to anticipate the shape of the day. Shelling, repairs, patrols, orders from command that may or may not change before lunchtime. No one knows, and strangely, no one asks. War teaches a man to accept uncertainty the way others accept weather. Some look toward the horizon, watching the last remnants of fog lift slowly from the ground. Some tighten the straps on their helmets. Some check their pockets for letters that bring comfort in the cold. The trench is awake now, fully, and its inhabitants brace themselves for the quiet, grinding labor of another day in the war. Daylight settles differently in the trenches. It doesn't brighten things so much as expose them. The frayed edges of uniforms, the cracks in wooden supports, the sagging sandbags, the lines of fatigue etched on every man's face. And yet, despite everything the light reveals, morning brings with it a kind of uneasy calm. Not peace, never peace, just a pause, thin and fragile, between what happened and what could happen next. The first hour after dawn often feels deceptively quiet. Artillery rests. Rifles stay still. Voices carry softly across the line. A soldier leans against a sandbag wall, taking a slow breath as he watches a patch of sunlight settle on the mud. Like a blessing no one requested. He doesn't trust it. None of them do. They've lived through mornings where this silence lasted less than a minute, shattered suddenly by the shriek of shells or the crack of rifle fire. But sometimes, miraculously, the quiet holds, and men treat it carefully, as if it might break if handled too roughly. War may be chaos, but life in the trenches runs on routine. As soon as daylight strengthens, tasks begin. Not dramatic ones, not heroic ones. Just the constant labor of staying alive. A soldier clears mud from the firing step with a shovel so battered it's nearly curved. Another checks the drainage ditch, kicking debris aside to keep the trench from flooding in the next rain. Farther down, two men replace a collapsed section of sandbags, their hands moving with the precision of those who've done it hundreds of times before. There is no pride in this work, but there is purpose. A trench that decays is a trench that kills. And the men know this without needing to say it aloud. Every so often, a runner arrives, breathless, muddy, holding a crumpled message. He delivers it to an officer or corporal who reads it silently, nods once, and begins adjusting the day's rhythm. Perhaps a scouting patrol needs volunteers. Perhaps a listening post must be manned tonight. Perhaps supplies are delayed and rations must be stretched. The men accept each update with small gestures, a nod, a shrug, a muttered right then, not out of obedience alone, but because the war has taught them that resistance changes nothing. Orders roll in like tides. Men adapt, then adapt again. It is strange what daylight brings back to the trenches. Birds, small ones, sparrows, robins, creatures too light to understand what lies beneath them. They perch on broken stakes or flutter as if the battlefield were just another field. A soldier near you watches one with an expression so soft you barely recognize him. The bird hops, chirps once, and then takes flight, its wings cutting a brief path through the cold morning air. For a moment, the soldier's shoulders loosen. Then he looks away, as if embarrassed to have cared so much about something so small. But small things matter here, sometimes more than big ones. As morning grows stronger, patterns emerge. One man sharpens a trench knife with slow, rhythmic strokes. Another rewraps a bandage around a blistered foot. Someone brews weak tea in a battered can, offering sips to those nearby. Two soldiers discuss the strange dreams they had between patrol and dawn. Neither dream makes sense, but both talk about them as if describing distant weather. These moments bear a fragile resemblance to life outside the war, the routines of ordinary men. But beneath them runs a current of tension. Every ear is alert, every movement cautious, every breath held a little too long. The calm is welcome, but never trusted. With daylight comes visibility, and with visibility comes responsibility. At intervals along the trench, men step onto firing steps to scan the opposing line. They look for fresh repairs, new placements of sandbags, signs of movement, unusual, quiet, unusual activity, anything that might hint at what the enemy intends today. One observer mutters, "Looks the same as yesterday." The man beside him replies softly, "That's what worries me. Routine in war can be camouflage, a pattern maintained to hide the moment it will be broken." By mid-morning, the trench feels almost industrious. Hammers tapping, shovels scraping, men moving supplies from one section to another. One soldier secures a wooden beam above a dugout entrance, checking twice to make sure it won't collapse in the next storm. Another pours water from a tin cup into a dry corner of earth to settle the dust raised by morning movement. These tasks seem small, almost meaningless, to anyone not living here. But in the trenches, small tasks are what keep the world from falling apart. They keep hands busy and minds steady. They carve out a fragile sense of control in a place where control is rarely offered, even if no shells fall, even if no rifle fires, even if no orders come. The air carries a kind of weight. The men feel it in the stiffness of their necks, in the way their eyes linger a little too long on the opposing line, in the chill that moves through the trench despite the morning light. It is the tension of possibility. That today might be the day something happens, or the day nothing happens, except the slow erosion of body and mind. No one says it aloud. In war, some truths do not need speaking. And yet, somewhere in the late morning, a moment arrives that feels almost calm. A soldier pours water over his hands, rubbing away the mud from a long night. Another ties a loose strap on his pack. Someone, somewhere, manages to laugh. A short, tired burst of sound that vanishes quickly, but leaves a trace of warmth behind. For a few seconds, the trench is simply a place where men exist in shared fatigue and shared routine. No heroism, no drama. Just humanity in the middle of an inhuman landscape. These moments do not change the day. They do not change the war, but they change the men. Just enough to help them keep going. Just enough to make the next hour bearable. By late afternoon, the trench has slipped into a kind of tired rhythm. The work slows. The voices soften again. The light loses its sharpness, taking on a muted yellow tone that makes everything look older, worn, faded at the edges. Another day is leaving, not with a roar, not with a final, dramatic moment, just with a gradual dimming, as if someone were slowly turning down the brightness of the world. As the sun lowers, shadows begin to stretch. They creep along the boards, rise up the walls, slide across faces. The same men who were visible in full detail that morning now fade again into partial silhouettes. Lines of worry soften. So do expressions of exhaustion. The trench becomes once more a place of outlines rather than features. The light from above turns thin and delicate. Someone looks up at the sky, noticing the first hints of orange brushing against the clouds. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. everyone feels it. Day is almost over. Night is on its way back. There are always tasks to complete before darkness returns. Tools must be stored. Weak sections of the trench must be supported just a little more. Sentries are briefed. Patrols are assigned. Messages are sent down the line to confirm that everyone is ready for the long hours ahead. A soldier tampers down the earth at the base of a sandbag wall, pressing it firmly with his boot, making sure it will hold at least one more night. Another checks the lamps, cleaning soot from the glass with a rag, testing the wicks, making certain that when the dark comes, light will still be possible in small, controlled pockets. Nothing is done quickly, and nothing is done lazily. Every movement has the weight of routine behind it. They have lived this day before. They will live it again as the light begins to fade. A final ration is passed around. It is simple. It is not enough, but it is something. Thin stew, its warmth more important than its flavor. Bread that has grown hard, softened in the liquid. Maybe a few scraps of meat floating like small surprises in the tin cup. Men gather close as they eat, not for company exactly, but for the comfort of shared ritual. Spoons scrape against metal. Someone sighs contentedly, despite the modest meal. Another jokes that if you close your eyes, you can pretend it's home cooking. No one really believes it, but they smile anyway. Eating together in the fading light is a reminder that, despite the uniforms, despite the orders, despite the war, they are still human. The sky above the trench shifts once more. Orange deepens to red. Red melts into purple. And then, gradually, the colors begin to seep out of the world. The trench loses its depth. Its edges blur. The earth, the wood, the cloth, all slide toward shades of gray. One by one, small tasks come to an end. Shovels are set aside. Packs are adjusted. Weapons are adjusted. Weapons are placed within arm's reach. A quiet settles in, not the silence of night yet, but the hush of transition. The indash between dot as daylight thins, the trench divides once more into those who will watch and those who will try, in whatever way they can, to rest. Assignments are checked, names are called, positions confirmed. One soldier glances at the section where he stood the previous night, remembering how the darkness felt there, how the wind moved, how the mud held his boots, how the world seemed to shrink to the length of his own outstretched arm. Tonight, his place is different. The trench is the same. The watchers prepare themselves, coats pulled tight, helmets adjusted, hands flexed to keep blood moving Those who will rest pull themselves into corners, dugouts, shaded recesses in the wall. They know better than to expect real sleep. But even a moment with eyes closed and muscles released is worth more now than any words can express. At last, the sky slips fully into darkness. Stars prick the surface, hesitant at first, then with increasing confidence. Somewhere, far down the line, a flare goes up, its harsh light briefly painting the clouds before dying away. In your section of the trench, lamps are dimmed. Cigarettes cupped carefully in hands, voices lowered to a murmur. The trench becomes again a place of sound, more than vision. Dripping water, rustling cloth, quiet footsteps along the boards, a cough stifled in a sleeve. The day is gone. The night has returned, and with it, the same familiar duties: to watch, to wait, to endure. If you zoomed out from this single trench, past the mud, past the wire, past the patches of lifeless trees, you would see countless others like it. Lines of earth stretching across continents, filled with men living the same day over night watch. Cold dawn, morning, repairs, hesitant, calm. Fading light, night watch, again. For those who live it, this repetition can feel like a trap, but it is also a kind of shield. There is comfort in knowing what each hour demands. Routine becomes armor for the mind. So when the night settles for yet another round, the soldiers are not surprised, tired, yes, worn, hollowed out in places, but not surprised. They know what to do. They have done it before. They will do it again until someone tells them to move, until orders arrive, until the war shifts and sweeps them into some new form of uncertainty. A sentry climbs onto the firing step, eyes adjusting once more to the layered darkness. Behind him, a man pulls a letter from his pocket, unfolding it with care. Farther down, someone lights a small candle inside a dugout, shielding the fragile flame with his hand. The cycle is complete. The day that began in fear continued in routine and faded in quiet labor has returned to the same night that greeted it. Above, the sky watches silently. Below, in the narrow strip of earth between worlds, men prepare themselves for another long wait. These hours will not appear in most history books. They will not be marked by monuments or medals. But for the soldiers who lived them, these nights and the days wrapped around them were the real war, not the charge, not the glory, not the final victory or defeat, just this mud, cold, fatigue, routine, fear, camaraderie, and the quiet, stubborn decision to endure one more cycle, one more night, one more dawn, until somehow it is over. If you're still here, still awake, or drifting somewhere in between. Thank you for sharing this quiet hour with me. These stories are heavy, but we carry them gently. You're welcome to stay close. You can subscribe to Quiet War History for sleep if you'd like more nights like this. Soft voices, dim memories, history told slowly. So it doesn't disturb the dark. No urgency, no expectation. Just an open door for whenever you need company in the quieter moments of the night. Rest well, and when you're ready, come back. There will always be another story waiting for you.